Let's start with the shock value. So I'm gonna name a couple people that I think you guys know, and then we're gonna work backwards, okay?
Yeah, that's good.
Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston,
Celine Dion,
Janet Jackson,
Bono,
Rihanna,
Bruno Mars,
Miley Cyrus.
Mary J. Blige.
These are all people that we've worked with thus far. Before you, woo! The crazy part is that's actually the boring part of our career.
Definitely the boring part. Definitely.
And that's no insult to them, but it's actually the boring part. And what that means is that Weirdo Workshop and what we're going to get to is actually about us returning to who we really are as opposed to chasing who everyone else is and who we thought we loved. So how this all began for us is two little kids from two completely different parts of the country.
I'm from St. Louis.
I'm from New York,
Okay.
hence the name Louis York,
Yeah.
Louis York. It's about where we're from and who and what made us up. But we started off basically dreaming about all that we wanted to do, all the artists we wanted to work with, all the songs we wanted to create, all the stages we wanted to perform at, basically being world-dominating musicians. And in the process of doing that, we created all these idols in our heads of what it would mean to get there, what would it mean to be successful when we know we made it. So the names we mentioned at the very beginning are the names of the people that we thought would define us as musicians and define us as good people, good musicians, but also good workers, good business people. Unfortunately, we were totally fucking wrong.
Totally wrong.
Totally wrong.
So boring.
And what actually happened is that we got the reverse of what we thought. We thought that we were going to spend 20, 30 years working up to get to the people like Michael Jackson and Mariah Carey and Janet Jackson, all these megastars. And what happened is God has a sense of humor, and he did something really funny to us, is that around the exact same time, not knowing each other, we accomplished a lot of those things at the very beginning of our professional career. So in about 2006, 2007, the first big cut I had was like Britney Spears, Michael Jackson, and for him.
The first big cut I had was Celine Dion.
And so what happens is you say, oh shit, now that I got my dream conquered in the first year of my professional attempt, now what do I do? And so what started as panic actually turned into us channeling all of that aggression that we could no longer use in those people into us being as creative as possible. So we spent years chasing all of the people we thought we wanted to get to and thought we'd be satisfied. Cut to almost 10 years later, all these accomplishments, still unhappy, still wondering why we feel a little bit empty, still feeling used, still feeling abused by companies, still feeling like we weren't being respected. A funny day, 2 years ago, we meet up in the studio, as we often do to create songs, and we start to complain about this, which is very hard to do because if you're working with people with those kind of names, it feels ungrateful to complain.
Right.
Which is why we don't talk like this very often, because it seems kind of nasty to talk about that stuff. At that point, we said, well, let's just throw all that stuff out the window. Let's pretend that didn't exist. Let's pretend those accomplishments never happened. What would we create? What would we do? What were the things that made us fall in love with music as children before we knew all these rules and these politics and the red tape that gets in the way of all the creativity? And that's when the real adventure began. That's why I told you to forget those names, because now it's about to get good. And the first thing we did, which I'll let you tell about, was the beginning of what now is Weirdo Workshop.
So we were sitting in a studio in New York here, and we were terribly frustrated. I had no idea he was frustrated. I was terribly frustrated, but he's a successful songwriter, so I wouldn't know that he's frustrated. So he come to me and he was like, yo, I'm frustrated with the music business. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm thinking about stopping music and going to college. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? You make a lot of
I was
money.
definitely going to get a master's in something else.
So this conversation led to what would we do differently with our careers? Like if we had our dream careers, like after all of that stuff that we've done, like what would we do? And we said we would make music with no boundaries. We would be free. And the good part about being free in music is that it takes being free in your everyday life to be free in music, because you have so many, I know that you guys do whatever you do for a living, but there are rules and regulations. And in music, there's rules and regulations. 100%. And so to be free to create is a commodity in the music business, as quiet as it's kept, but it is. And so I told him that I wanted to be free, and he was like, yo, let's do music that we don't have to sell it. We just do whatever we want to do. Just do our dream music. And what birth was 15 songs later. We had a band called Louis York, and from that experience, we've been able to not only free ourselves creatively, but free ourselves personally. We've like lost 120 pounds apiece, you know, and so
Literally, I was.
we were both big.
I was a
because
pudgemeister.
When you're in the studio, you eat a lot. You get a lot of donuts delivered.
It happened. So after we finished our first album,
Yeah.
we still felt a little bit unfulfilled, meaning that we had all this music that we now know we needed to share somehow and weren't sure how to share it or who to share it with. And that turned into a conversation about a community. And how can we take this formula of going back to who you really are, who you really love, the music you loved coming up, and find other people, find our tribe, basically, of people that also are this passionate about their art, whether it be music or visual art or whatever it is they want to do. And so we took the formula of what made Louis York really work for us, and we said, let's find other artists that want to be themselves. They're not trying to chase being the next Miley Cyrus, the next Selena Gomez, or whatever the hot ticket is in town that week. They want to be uniquely themselves. And we discovered that in talking to people, that people were all dying for artists and music and art that was unique and honest and real and not just a follow of what happened before.
Right.
And so we said, okay, screw radio for a second, although we love radio, screw it, and let's find people that are tapping into who they really are so you can get those, for lack of a better word, feels that you'd get from the songs you turned to when your heart was broken or when you really wanted to party. And we found that we were going to old songs because there was nothing new that we could refer to that made us feel like we were comforted in those moments. So Weirdo Workshop was birthed right then and there. And we sought artists, really creative, cool, individual, brave people who weren't afraid to share their struggles, their failures, their successes, their fears. And in the end, we thought we were making amazing records, and I think we did that. But really the payoff was that we all became better people by doing that, and that actually is what makes the music special. And so really what being a weirdo is, which is why we call it a Weirdo Workshop, is that you're unafraid to be different. You're unafraid to go back to what you kind of knew from the beginning was who you really were. Right. Before you let the world tell you that you had to talk this way or walk this way or write this way or be artistic this way or blend in order to be successful. And so what we found is that we got half the success doing that. And so it's not to say that success doesn't exist. We got half of it. But what we're now realizing is that you can get the full success if you're unafraid to totally give in to the fact that being who you really are is 100% okay. And it's actually the only way you're going to make a real mark in the world, is being who you are. The people we idolize are idolized because they were unafraid, unlike everyone else, to speak their mind the way they chose to speak their mind. And so we're trying to nurture a community of people that are unafraid to be weirdos, meaning that they're unafraid to be leaders, which is speak their mind about everything from art to passion to politics to religion. And so we've built a whole company based off of telling the truth and hoping that the truth will set us free and then hopefully set other people free. I don't know how the hell I just said that fast.
Sound good.
I'm so excited that I did it like that. Did that make sense? That makes sense to you guys? So, to explain a little bit about who we are, I'm going to tell you about, we're Louis York. We've sung for you. We're going to sing again. But we have two other amazing acts that are also coming for you guys. We're actually doing a show on Saturday if you guys are around at Bowery Ballroom with the whole company. So you should come and get drunk and have a fucking good time.
Oh, yeah.
But we also have...
We have a girl from Russia. Her name is Masha. She's an awesome singer, awesome writer. And we just had so much fun working on that project. And we have a band called Kes the Band. They're from Trinidad. It's just
we have a Kes band in the corner. The one soul Kes band. Yeah. No, the purpose was to be international because the world is international now in terms of how we access art. So we didn't want to be local to New York City or to St. Louis. That's where we're from. But it's important that we also recognize that art is to be shared and that we are a reflection of the art we put out there. So we wanted to reflect a worldview. And so to end this...
What is our question? Our question came from actually the requirement that it takes to be in Weirdo Workshop. You have to be cool with being different. And so when we interview people that we want to work with, we say, don't you want to be different? And if they say yes, then they can sing. If they say no, then they can't sing. For
You'd be
me.
surprised with that, but you'd be surprised with asking yourself that question, and asking that question other people brings out immediately.
Yeah.
Because different has a lot of meanings to different people, but often it scares them away. They feel like it's going to put them out there in a way where they're being stared at by the world. And it's also encouraging people to be okay with the fact that you're different. Don't you want to be who you know you are?
Yes.
And so
So-
it's a question and a challenge to be bold about who you are.
So don't you want to be different? Y'all
Don't
want to
you
hear
wanna be
some new
different?
music? All right.
Let's do another song.